Paratmanamekam Jagadbijamadyam Niriham Nirakaram Onkar Vidyam Yato Jayatena Vishvam Tamisham Bhajeliyate Yatra Vishvam. So today we are meeting after almost 3 months. In the last season, we had studied the 8th chapter Gita. And today we shall commence the 9th. This 9th chapter of the Gita is known as Raja Vidya Raja Guhya. And the chapter derives its name owing to these two words present in the second shloka itself. The second shloka itself, Krishna refers to two very important things. He says that now in this chapter, what I am going to state, it is Raja Vidya. Raja Vidya means it is the greatest Vidya. It is the highest knowledge. Here Vidya means knowledge. We shall look into it at the right context. So Krishna is saying that in this chapter I am going to tell you the highest and the most superior knowledge to you, and which is also the greatest secret, Raju Guhyam. Guhyam means something which is secret or most profound. Two things, beautiful things. Now what do you mean by secret? Secret means that which is known to anybody. Anything which is already known to everyone, that is not a secret, is it not? So what is the secret in this creation? The highest secret in this creation is the knowledge of the Supreme Reality. Because this knowledge of the Supreme Reality is the one thing which no one knows. If it is known to everyone, it is no more a secret. So this is the highest knowledge, and this is also the highest secret, the most profound secret which is not known to anyone. And Krishna says that now I am going to present to you this great wisdom, the highest knowledge, and that which is the greatest secret. So that is how this chapter derives its name as Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, the greatest knowledge, the biggest secret, or the most profound wisdom. Now, before we enter into the 9th chapter, we need to look into the background or the context based on which Krishna is presenting his ideas to all of us. And the context is again the preceding chapter. In the Gita, we have always seen that every chapter is a continuation of a flow of ideas coming from the preceding chapters. This we have seen. Every chapter leads into the next chapter. So, what was discussed in the 8th chapter? Let us spend some time understanding or once again revisiting the ideas which Krishna had presented in the 8th chapter, and then we start the 9th chapter. So how did the 8th chapter start? In the beginning of the 8th chapter, we find Arjuna Arjun presenting 7 questions to Sri Krishna. 7 very important questions. Interestingly, Arjun every now and then broaches some questions. And it is very noteworthy that these questions are not superficial questions. All these questions relate to the existential issues which you and I face in our everyday life. They are not superficial questions. They are extremely profound and deep questions which Arjuna is asking to Sri Krishna. So actually speaking, Arjuna is our representative. Today Krishna is not there in front of us. So he has asked all those questions which actually prop up in your minds and in my minds. Arjuna has already broached and kept before Krishna all those questions which usually trouble you and me. So in and through Arjuna's questions, actually we will see that we are actually seeking answers to those extremely enigmatic issues which trouble our own hearts. That's the importance of Arjuna's questioning. And of course, the answer is coming from Sri Krishna, who is the dispeller of darkness. Sri Krishna is that one which dispels darkness. We don't have to look upon him as a person. Sri Krishna is the supreme wisdom. And this wisdom is that which dispels darkness of our hearts. So it is like one entity which is in darkness is posing questions to light, and that light dispels the darkness. This is the whole phenomenon which we find throughout in Bhagavad Gita. So Sri Krishna is that supreme wisdom which alone can dispel the darkness existing in your heart and in my heart. So the 8th chapter, Arjuna started with 8 beautiful questions. Kim tat, kim adhyatmam, kim adhibhutam, kim adhidaivatam, kim adhyagyam, kim karma, all these things. 7 questions he asked in the beginning. Kim tad adhyatma, kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma purushottama, adhibhutam cha kim proktam, adhidaivam kim uchyate, adhyagyah katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana, prayana kale cha katham geyosi niyatatmabhi. These were the 7 questions which Arjuna broached in the beginning of the 8th chapter. In that, the 7th question is, I should say, all the questions are important, but the entire 8th chapter is based upon the question number 7, the last question. And what was the last question? In the last question, Arjuna is asking this, that prayana kali. This is a very important point. Prayana kala. Prayana kala means when the jiva is ready to leave this gross body. Prayana kala. Prayana means when we are ready to leave now. This gross body is going to be left behind. And the jiva's destiny after that. It's an important juncture which is waiting to come in every jiva's life. See the importance of this question. We all have to face this prayana kala, that moment when we shall be shedding this gross body and the jiva or the sukshma sharira, the subtle body proceeds. Now, in which direction it will proceed? It depends upon certain factors. So the question is, prayana kale, at the time of death, how is this person going to attain the knowledge of the supreme reality? That is the question. At the time of death, when this jiva is now ready to leave the gross body, in that moment, how is this jiva going to attain the knowledge of the supreme reality? This is the question. This is your question and this is my question. Now one may ask, why should we worry about the knowledge of Supreme Reality? A person who is wise will definitely ask this question, because it is the absence of the knowledge of the Supreme Reality which is the cause of all sufferings in human life. Again, I repeat this point. It is the absence of the knowledge of the Supreme Reality which is the plain, one and only one cause of all the sufferings which we have in our human life. We have to make certain points very clear, which Krishna keeps on making in every chapter. Human sufferings are never going to come to an end unless the truth is known. We may try to cover up these sufferings through some superficial means, and we may find some solace through some, certain things which we do on the surface. But the problem is not going to solve as long as the knowledge of the Supreme Reality is not attained. So that is the question. Prayana kale cha katham geyosi niyatatma bhihi. A person who has practiced control of the mind, such a person at the moment of death, how is he going to attain the knowledge of the Supreme Reality? This is the question. And the whole of the 8th chapter is essentially it is the answer to the 7th question. At the time of death, where should our mind actually be? And Krishna tells us some very important, profound ideas, which every serious seeker of truth will take it to his heart. You cannot neglect those points if you are a seeker of truth. If we are not a seeker of truth, this is not relevant to us. But if we are all seekers of truth, then this is the way. So what does Krishna say? At the time of death, how is that we are going to keep our mind fixed on the Supreme Reality? How is it possible? So Krishna tells certain very important principles. He says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati. A person who leaves the body, and at the time of leaving the body, if his mind is fixed on the Supreme Reality, he attains to Supreme Reality. That is the principle. A person, while leaving the Supreme, his body, if his mind is fixed on the Supreme Reality, he attains that Supreme Reality. So Krishna says, what is the principle? Shankaracharya mentions there. He says, Bhagavat Anusmaranam becomes Bhagavat Prapti Hetu. This we have seen. Constantly remembering that Supreme Reality becomes the cause of attaining that Supreme Reality. And Jagat Anusmaranam will become Jagat Prapti Hetu. If our mind is fixed on things of this world, then we shall be attaining this world. We shall never be freed from the problems which we are suffering in our day-to-day life. This is what Krishna said. Bhagavat Anusmaranam becomes Bhagavat Prapti Hetu, and Jagat Anusmaranam becomes Jagat Prapti Hetu. And then 2-3 important things Krishna says there. Today I'm just going to revise the 8th chapter before getting into the 9th chapter. So Krishna then finally beautifully concludes there, saying that therefore, if we have to keep our mind fixed on the Supreme Reality at the time of death, this is not going to happen just like that. One has to practice keeping the mind on the Supreme Reality throughout the life. When we are alive in this body, the question is, where is our mind at that time? It is only those people who have practiced keeping mind on the Supreme Reality when we are alive here, when we are in the transactional plane, when we are interacting with everybody, whatever we are doing, from the time we wake up in the morning till we go to bed at night, all the different activities which we are doing, what is our vision? Where is our mind at that time? If our mind is continuously on the Supreme Reality, then and then alone, at the final moments, the mind will go to Supreme Reality. That is the principle. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiva kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita, he says. Whatever you think, you attain to that. You think about the Supreme Reality, you attain the Supreme Reality. You think about the things of the world, you attain to the things of the world. This is the principle. Therefore, Krishna beautifully says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha. That is the takeaway from the chapter 8. If you ask me what is the takeaway shloka coming in the chapter 8, please kindly you turn up all the mobiles. I request all of you to keep your mobiles in silent mode. So, the main takeaway idea of the 8th chapter is what? Krishna's beautiful utterance. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. Twice he says this. Towards the end of the 8th chapter again he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Both the things mean the same thing. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all points of time, yoga yukto bhava. Yoga yukto bhava means constantly be united with the Supreme Reality. How is this constant union with the Supreme Reality possible in our day-to-day life? Now that is the next question. The next question is, how is this constant union with the Supreme Reality possible in our day-to-day life? How is it possible? Now comes certain very important issues here. And that is what Krishna has addressed in the 8th chapter and almost all the chapters. Now this constant remembrance of the Supreme Reality, it depends upon one very important factor. What is that? You see, what is our usual idea about what we are seeing here? Whatever we are seeing through our senses, generally speaking, our idea about what we are seeing through the senses is what? We refer to this as world. Jagat, Jagat, Jagat. Now a big question has to be posed here. Is this our right understanding which we have about what we are seeing here? Is this understanding that this is Jagat, is this understanding a right understanding? This is one question. For all seekers of truth, when they pose this question and when they begin to probe into it, they will realize that my understanding is based upon nothing but ignorance. As long as we are gripped by ignorance, we say that this is Jagat. So what is the truth? So we have seen the beautiful presentation. In the 7th chapter we have seen, in the 13th chapter we have seen. In every chapter, Krishna is repeatedly hammering this idea. He is saying that, my dear children, remember one point. What we are seeing through our senses, which we are referring to with the term world or Jagat, this Jagat is existing only in avidya, it is existing only in ignorance. When ignorance is gone, when avidya is gone, this very thing is realized to be nothing but Brahman, Ishvara. Whatever we are seeing here, it is all nothing but Ishvara and Brahman alone, nothing else. How? Let us go back to the 7th chapter. In the 7th chapter, you all remember we have studied where there are two natures presented, Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. In which Apara Prakriti means the lower nature. Nature in its inferior or the lower form. What is this nature in its inferior form? Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kham mano buddhi revacha ahankaram iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtadha apareyam itastwanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayetam dharyate jagat. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani iti upadharaya aham krishnasya jagatah prabhava pralayas-tatha matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sotre manigana iva. So electrifying. Krishna is presenting the picture of reality to us in these three shlokas. So electrifying. These three shlokas Krishna is presenting, he is dispelling our misunderstanding about what we are perceiving through the senses. Krishna is saying, you see here, whatever we are seeing through the senses, what are we seeing here? We are all seeing two things here. One is matter and the other is consciousness. To put it in modern terminology, what he wants to say is that whatever we are seeing here through the senses, it is all nothing but a blend of matter and consciousness, nothing else. First, he gives a list of all those things which constitute the material plane. The Panchatattvas, Bhumi, Apa, Anala, Vayu, Kham. The five Panchatattvas, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi, the five Tattvas. And then Man, Buddhi and Ahankar. All these things are nothing but matter. And this is inferior. It is inferior nature, or nature in its inferior dimension. And totally opposed to this inferior dimension of nature is another dimension. Krishna says, the words are very important. He says totally opposed to. Apareyam itastu anyam prakritim. Totally opposed to this, there is a different, higher dimension of the nature, prakriti, which is jiva bhutam, which is of the nature of consciousness. He makes this point very clear. The absolute distinction between these two natures, the apara prakriti, the lower prakriti, is material, and the higher prakriti is consciousness, and they are totally opposed to each other. Opposed to each other means they are totally of different nature. One is matter and the other is consciousness. Then Krishna had said, these two together are the causes of everything that we are experiencing here. It's a beautiful statement. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani iti upadharaya. Krishna said, please try to understand this point, my dear children, that whatever we are experiencing here, they are all caused by these two things, para prakriti and apara prakriti. Para prakriti is consciousness and apara prakriti is matter. Everything that we are seeing here is nothing but a play of para and apara prakriti, the supreme nature and the inferior nature. Then the question comes, whose nature it is? These two natures which we are talking about as matter and consciousness, to whom does it belong? Krishna says these two natures are my own nature. It is Ishvara's two natures. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani iti upadharaya aham krishnasya jagatah prabhava pralayas-tatha. I am the cause of everything here through my two natures. Every sentence is very important. I am the cause of everything here through my two natures. Through my two natures expressing itself in the form of consciousness and matter. Through these two, I am the cause of everything. Means I alone am existing. Krishna wants to say that I alone am existing. Where is the world? The thing which we are referring to as Jagat, 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 world. It is existing only in avidya. It is existing only in ignorance. When ignorance is dispelled, we will begin to see this itself as Ishvara. And Krishna had said, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. And now there is nothing superior to this vision. Krishna is saying that there is nothing superior to this vision which I am giving to you, my dear children. This vision that everything is Ishvara, it is Ishvara's two prakriti which we are actually seeing through our eyes. We talk about seeing God through open eyes. See, that's why when we don't have the right vision, We wait for God to come into our life. Again, I repeat the sentence. When we lack the right vision, we anticipate the arrival of God in our life. We are thinking that God will come at the time of death. Whereas the truth is that we are seeing nothing but God. See, the topic of discussion is constant remembrance of God, Ishvara. This constant remembrance will not be possible as long as you are thinking, as long as we are thinking that this is world and God is a second entity. Again, I repeat this point. This point was hammered, is being hammered, and will be hammered in every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Are there two things existing? One called world, and separated and distinct from this, something called Ishvara or God. Are they two different things? This is the thing. But we have been living with that very idea. Till now, we have been living with this very idea. We have lived with this idea that this is world and God is a second entity somewhere. He is existing, we don't know where. And we have all kinds of imaginary ideas about it. Then imagination is given free rein to create all kinds of ideas in the mind. We think that God is up, God is here in the temple, here and there. Whereas the Vedanta teaches us, whatever we are seeing is nothing but forms of God. Now, this very thing is continued in the 8th chapter. Now, what I refer to these three shlokas are from the 7th chapter. This idea continued in the 8th chapter also. As I said, the first 7 questions. In that first 7th question, Arjuna is first again the same, because we are all ordinary people. We cannot catch this. In spite of having heard this many times, we fail to catch it, we fail to assimilate it, we fail to make it a part of our day-to-day. We fail to make it a part of our system. It happens because we don't have that competence. So repeatedly this question needs to be asked, it needs to be answered, it needs to be hammered deep, and it needs to be made go deeper into our hearts, and then only it will become a reality. So in the beginning of the 8th chapter, Arjuna asked the same question. What is this Adhibhutam? All those things which we are seeing here. What is Adhidaivam? The so-called the powers of the nature, the different deities. What is this Jiva, Adhyatma, and so on. So Krishna gives the same answer there also. You see, what you are referring to as Adhibhutam is nothing but Ishvara. What you are referring to as Adhyatma, this Jiva, is nothing but Ishvara. What you are referring to as Adhyakya, the different activities, the Yagya which is performed, it is also Ishvara. In those answers, the central point is there is nothing existing apart from Ishvara. Now, this is the secret of constant remembrance. So the question was, at the time of death, how is this Jiva who is now ready to leave his gross body, how is he going to succeed in fixing his mind on the Supreme Reality? This was the question. Very, very significant question, because all of us are going to come and face that situation. It is only a matter of time. That final moment will come when just a few more breaths are left. At that time, the body slows down. But what is the activity going on in the subtle body? Intense activity will go on. The direction can be only two. Again, I repeat. Intense activity will go on in the Sukshma Sharira, in the subtle body, and the activity will be directed only in two ways. Either it will be busy thinking about worldly things, or if it has trained itself, it can also think about the Supreme Reality. And the consequences of these two kinds of thinking are two different. The consequences of thinking about the worldly things is what? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam, iha samsari, kaludustari, kripaya pari, pahi murari, bhaja govindam. beautiful. Shankaracharya's masterpiece. See, actually what Krishna has said, Shankaracharya is hammering in his most impeccable style. We all have heard this Bhaja Govindam Stotram. So beautiful. Simply electrifying. Literally speaking, it's like an electric current which begins to run through our veins. He is saying Bhaja Govindam means what? Constantly remember the Supreme Reality. 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 Bhaja Govindam means what? Constantly remember the Supreme Reality. What Krishna said in the 8th chapter, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Ma Manusmara. Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhava. The same thing Sri Bhagavan Shankaracharya puts it in his inimitable style. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Constantly practice the remembrance of the Supreme Reality. How to do it? This constant remembrance is not possible unless we change our vision. This I always stress in all the classes. You see, constant remembrance means change of vision. And no constant remembrance is possible without the change in vision. What do you mean by change in vision? As long as we are living with the idea that this is a world and God is a second entity, constant, unbroken remembrance of God is not possible. It's not possible. Because for that, we need to solve certain issues. As long as we think that this is world and God is a second entity, our mind will be continuously jumping from the world to God and from God to the world. From world to God and God to world. The unbroken remembrance which Krishna talks about in the Gita, repeatedly, in the 8th chapter itself, he speaks about unbroken remembrance of the Supreme Reality in many verses. Beautiful. Krishna uses the term Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Nanyagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Partha Anuchintayan. He says, what is this Abhyasa Yoga? Krishna so beautifully, every chapter is a different yoga actually. It is not that only Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Raja Yoga which we have. There are so many yogas actually. Abhyasa Yoga is another yoga. In the 9th chapter which we are going to study, there the term Sannyasa Yoga comes. Beautiful. The yoga of Sannyasa. Yoga of Sannyasa means yoga of renunciation. Renunciation is a yoga. Abhyasa is what? Practice. Practice is a yoga. So Sri Krishna says in the 8th chapter, what is this Abhyasa Yoga? Abhyasa Yoga is that training of the mind through which the mind is constantly in an unbroken way fixed on the Supreme Reality to the exclusion of everything else. This is Shankaracharya's definition of Abhyasa Yoga. It's very demanding. What is Abhyasa Yoga? The constantly fixing of the mind on the Supreme Reality to the exclusion of all other ideas. Means in the mind there is nothing but only one idea, the Supreme Reality, which we are referring to as Ishvara or God or Brahman or whatever it is. It doesn't matter actually what word we use. But there is one Supreme Reality on which the mind has to be fixed. Now the question is, how do we do it? As long as we think that this is world and God is a second entity, this unbroken keeping of the mind on the Supreme Reality is not going to be possible. So the issue which we have to address is world a second entity existing separated from Ishvara? It is not. That's why, see, it is only in Advaitic vision, which is the right vision. Again, I repeat this idea. It is only in the vision of the Advaitic reality that there is only one reality which is existing, which is appearing in this form. It is that reality. When we gain this vision, which is Samyak Drishti or Samyak Darshanam, then only constant remembrance becomes naturally possible. For a person who has got this vision, that whatever we are seeing, this is Saguna Brahman. Brahman associated with Maya, appearing in the so many names and forms, it is Brahman, it is Saguna Brahman. This vision should come. Then whatever we are seeing, whatever or whoever we are interacting with, they are all different forms of Brahman, nothing else. This is what Swami Vivekananda's, that beautiful Sakhar Prati poem where he says, Bahurupe Samukhe Tumar, Chadiye Kothaye, Kujicho Ishwar. Which God are you waiting to come? Which God are you searching for? This is the form of God. Is Vivekananda saying something new? It is the Upanishadic vision. This is the vision of the Vedanta. So this idea has to be first gained. This vision has to be gained. Our vision has to change. We should first understand that whatever we are experiencing here, it is all nothing but God. It is Ishvara's so many forms. That is what Krishna first teaches in the beginning of the 8th chapter, that Arjun, listen to me carefully, that whatever we are seeing here, Adhibhutam is Ishvara, Adhyatma is Ishvara, Adhidaiva is Ishvara, Adhyagya is Ishvara, Karma is Ishvara. Here everything is nothing but Ishvara and Ishvara alone. Now you will be able to remember me in an unbroken manner, and that will lead to that wonderful attainment to be had in the final moments of the jiva. What is that attainment? Attainment of the supreme reality through the remembrance of that supreme reality in the final moment. This becomes possible. Otherwise, it is not possible. So this was the main discussion of the 8th chapter. And then 8th chapter also discussed a beautiful point. Krishna said, you see, a person who succeeds in fixing his mind on the supreme reality at the final moments, and another is that a person who fails to keep his mind on the supreme reality. These are the two things possible. Either we succeed in keeping our mind on the supreme reality in the final moment, or we fail to keep our mind on the supreme reality. And the consequence of these two are different. If a jiva succeeds in keeping his mind on the supreme reality during the final moments, what happens is that Sri Krishna says that person attains mukti. That person attains mukti, the greatest attainment of human life, the goal of human life. And that mukti is krama mukti. This we have discussed in the 8th chapter. What is this krama mukti? It is gradually we get liberated. That person, his gross body falls down here, and that subtle body is led through different planes of existences, and finally, technical things, this we have already discussed in the 8th chapter. You can go back and listen to those videos and you will understand. That jiva will be attaining Brahmaloka, and from Brahmaloka, that jiva becomes liberated. That jiva, again, he doesn't come back to this mortal plane. Doesn't come back. That is what is known as Krama Mukti. And a person who fails to keep his mind on the supreme reality in the final moments, that person, what happens? He also leaves this gross body and attains to. No, again, one more clarification is needed. Now, this Krama Mukti is attained by whom? Shankaracharya makes a point very clear. That person who has led a righteous life, a life which is based upon dharma, and he is a devotee. Two things. A person who is doing all kinds of evil things, that person cannot attain mukti. A person who is involved in all kinds of evil things and who is not a devotee, who has never trained to keep his mind on God, that person cannot attain mukti. So mukti is attained by a person who has lived a righteous life and who is a bhakta. Bhakta means who has trained himself in keeping his mind on Bhagavan. That person, in his final moments, when he leaves the body with the remembrance of Bhagavan, he attains Bhagavan and he becomes mukta, he becomes free. And the other person, he also has led a righteous life. He is a good person. He has led a very good life. He has not led an evil life. But he is not a bhakta. He is a good human being, a good man or a good woman, but he or she has not been a bhakta. He or she has not trained himself or herself to keep the mind on Bhagavan. Now, what is the destiny of this person? This person also, after leaving the body, will attain to some higher heavens. And again, once that karma is exhausted, that person will be reborn in this world. These are the two possibilities. And this is what Krishna says, towards the end of the 8th chapter, that knowing these two paths, this yogi is never confused. He is no more deluded. He knows these are the only two possibilities available to us. Now it is our choice, which one to choose, which route to choose. Whether you want to go by that road which will bring you back to this world, or whether you want to choose that road which will finally liberate you. The choice is ours actually, nothing else. So see, Krishna puts the whole onus on your shoulders. You have to decide. You want to come back? Okay, then don't think. If you want to come back, you don't think about the supreme reality. Don't think about God. We will be, as it is, we'll be coming back. But if you want to be liberated, which is the main theme of spiritual life, khandana bhava bandhana, that is the main theme of the spiritual life, then we have to keep our mind on God. Now, the 9th chapter starts with this idea. Shankaracharya says there, now we can enter into the 9th chapter. This is what we had seen in the 8th chapter. Keeping the mind on God during the final moments, one gets krama mukti. One becomes liberated in a gradual manner. This was the theme of the 8th chapter. Now, the 9th chapter starts with this very idea. Shankaracharya says, one should not think that this is the only way to become liberated. Beautiful. Amazing. Shankaracharya says, one should not think that this is the only way to get liberated. For liberation, do we have to wait till the final moments, till the last, till we come and face death? Do we have to wait till that moment? No. We can be liberated even when we are alive in this very body. That's a beautiful theme of this chapter. So important. Shankaracharya says, you should not be thinking that this is the only way to become liberated. What is this only way of getting liberated? At the time of death, you remember God, and then you gradually become liberated. This is not the only way. There is another way. And that is to experience liberation here itself when we are alive. It's a beautiful theme. This is the actual theme of Vedanta, is always this one. Though both the things are discussed in Vedanta, but always the stress is on this one. Why do we have to wait till the last moment to become free? If we do the things which we are supposed to do, we all can experience freedom even when we are alive in this body. Again, I repeat this point. If we all do the things which we are supposed to do, each one of us can experience freedom even when we are alive in this very body. When we are breathing in this very body, one can experience supreme freedom. That is the goal of Upanishads. That is the real meaning of khandana bhava bandhana. Of course, the other option is also available, but this requires certain drastic change in our vision, number one, and change in our lifestyle. Two things. This vision cannot come unless we have vairagya. Of course, for both the things we need vairagya. Without vairagya, nothing happens in spiritual life. Even krama mukti is not possible without vairagya. What to talk about jivan mukti? Vairagya is the very platform on which both these attainments stand. Without vairagya, it is not possible. Now you see, this is how the 9th chapter actually commences, where Shankaracharya says, one should not be under the impression that this krama mukti is the only way of attaining mukti. Krama mukti means the liberation which we attain in a gradual manner at the time after the fall of the body. This is not the only way to become liberated. There is another way, that is, we can experience the supreme freedom even when we are alive in this body. So that is the central theme of the 9th chapter. So we should remember, this will be the central tone, the central idea which will be running throughout this so-called 9th chapter. It is a beautiful chapter. Every time I take a chapter, I say it's a beautiful chapter. What to do? All the chapters of Gita are like that. Every chapter is illuminating. You take any chapter, it is simple, because in every chapter it deals with Brahmagyan and Mukti from this bondage. Again, I repeat, every chapter shows us the way to break away from this bondage through the attainment of the supreme knowledge of the supreme reality. That is the central theme of Bhagavad Gita. It is a moksha shastra, and that moksha comes only through jnanam and through nothing else. Shankaracharya in his bhashya keeps on saying this repeatedly. No matter what you do, without jnanam, there is no moksha. Without jnanam, there is no moksha. Bhajagovindam, he says, Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam, Vrata Paripalanam, Athavadhanam, Jnana Vihina Sarvamatena, Muktim Na Bhajati Janma Shatena, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam, Bhajagodamate, Samprapte Sannihite Marane, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Tonkrikri. So beautiful. The last line is so beautiful. Samprapte Sannihite Marane. Death is standing at the door. Just memorizing the rules of the grammar is not going to save you. Memorizing the rules of the grammar means to be involved in all kinds of worldly things is not going to save us. You may go to Ganga Sagar and you take the dip in the ocean there. Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam. Vrata Paripalanam, you may undertake different vows, different vratas. This vrata, that vrata, this vow, that vow. You may do charity. You may do dhanam. You may donate. You are a rich person, you can donate money. All those things you can do. But no matter what you do, the central point is jnana vihina. Unless you know the truth, simply speaking that, unless the avidya is removed, unless the darkness of ignorance is removed, muktim abhajati janma shatena. One is not going to be freed from the cycle of birth and death, even in hundreds of lifetimes. It is not possible. These are incontrovertible, indubitable conclusions of Vedanta. No matter what you do, without the attainment of jnana, there is no liberation. That is how this 9th chapter starts with this idea that one should not think that liberation can be attained only in the final moments. No, we can breathe the freshness of freedom even when we are alive in this body, provided we do the right things which we are supposed to do. Now, what is that right thing which we are supposed to do? That will be the constant theme in this 9th chapter. So the 9th chapter, I'll just take first verse here, and from the next class onwards we shall go into the beautiful verses of the 9th chapter. So in the beginning, Sri Krishna says, very important, the first word itself is important. See, we can't make the sense of these words. It is Shankaracharya which brings out the cream. Amazing, his bhashyas, immortal commentary. No comparison. Look at these words. If we just read it by our own self, we won't be able to catch the central thing which Krishna is communicating to all of us. Sri Krishna is saying, Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyamyana suyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yadgyatva mokshase shubhat. Krishna is saying that idam te guhyatamam. Now, what is the meaning of idam? Idam actually means this, technically speaking. The literal translation, idam means this, whatever. This word is so profound. Idam literally means what? This means this table, this camera, this pillar, idam. Shankaracharya says, here the term idam refers to Brahma Jnanam. Idam refers to here Brahma Jnanam. We are going to talk about Brahma Jnanam. We are going to talk about the knowledge of the Supreme Reality. That is what is idam. And he says in his commentary, how is this idam? He is saying it is directly available to all of us this very moment. In his bhasha, he says this idam, which is actually the knowledge of the Supreme Reality called Brahman, this knowledge is directly, immediately, without the mediacy of anything, it is directly available to you and me. Right in the beginning, the first paragraph itself, Shankaracharya is saying, idam means what? Brahman, which is directly perceivable by you and me. But Why is it not we are perceiving it? Why we fail to perceive it? Now that is the whole question. So look at the way Shankaracharya starts his commentary. He says this idam refers to Brahmajnanam, which is a matter of fact, he is saying. It is a matter of fact which is directly available to all of us. You will be surprised in some of his bhashyas he says, if you see what we are referring to as Brahman, our every experience is saturated with the presence of Brahman. Again, I repeat this point. Our every experience, everything, see, you are looking at me. I am looking at you. This is an experience. This is an anubhuti. We are not talking about some imaginary things. We are investigating into human experience. Every experience, there is no experience in which Brahman is not saturated, in which Brahman is not present. So revealing this statement is, there is no experience possible in which Brahman is not through and through present in it. Every experience is saturated with the presence of Brahman. That is what Shankaracharya says. Idam means referring to that Brahman which is fully existing here in this very experience. But why is that we are not catching it? That's one question. And this Brahman is what? It is Guhyatamam, the supreme secret. Though it is present, it is not known to anyone. Though in this very experience and my talking and your listening, actually speaking, there is neither me nor you, it is Brahman which is existing. This is the most perplexing thing. In this very experience in which so-called one person is talking and the other persons are listening to it, in this very experience, neither the speaker is actually existing nor the listener is actually existing. What is actually existing is that supreme reality called Brahman and Brahman alone. This is the plain, naked truth. This is the meaning of God. There is no other meaning of God. All of the ideas of God which we have, they are all just imaginations cooked up by mind working in ignorance. This is the plain meaning. What Shankaracharya starts with, amazing. Yadam refers to Brahman, which is present here directly, without the mediacy even of sense organs. Directly available to you and me. But it is not seen. Present, but not seen. That's why it is great secret. Again, I repeat, it is present and yet not seen. That's why it is a great secret. Guhyatamam. So Krishna is saying right in the beginning, Arjun, now I am going to talk about that supremely secret Brahman which is fully present in our experience and yet it is not seen. That is why it is secret. It is Guhyatamam. Guhyatamam means the supreme secret, the most profound thing. Pravakshyami, I am going to tell this to you. Tell this to you, Arjun, and he is describing Arjun very beautifully. Anasuyave. So there is one condition actually. You know what is this Anasuyave? Anasuyave means, Krishna means what? Arjun who does not have the bad habit of grumbling and complaining. Now we should compare ourselves with this quality. So one big condition to be the seeker of the supreme knowledge is that we should stop grumbling and complaining in our day-to-day life. That's very important. This bad and dirty habit of constantly grumbling, and our whole life goes only in grumbling and complaining and grumbling and complaining. Very important point. Krishna is describing Arjuna as a person who is free from this disease of grumbling and complaining. So to you, Arjun, who is such a person who is free from this bad habit of complaining and grumbling, to you I am going to tell about the supreme secret, because that is what makes us competent to understand what the supreme secret is. So beautiful. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave. And then jnanam vijnana sahitam. Two things. Jnana and vijnana. Beautiful terms. Jnana refers to conceptual knowledge and vijnana refers to experiential knowledge. Essentially it's knowledge. Vidya. Knowledge. Whose knowledge? The knowledge of the supreme reality. This knowledge of the Supreme Reality, initially it comes in the form of conceptual knowledge. Please note it down. This is very important. Knowledge of the Supreme Reality, initially it comes in the form of conceptual knowledge. That itself is a great, great attainment. It's not a small thing. Even to attain the right conceptual knowledge is very big attainment in spiritual life. That itself, you may say, it solves almost 70 to 80% of our problems in life. Even the right conceptual knowledge, the right vision, the right drishti, the right bhava. These are the terms, right bhava, right drishti. It is Shastra drishti. The drishti which only Shastras can bless us with. No other books. Please note it down. This drishti comes only from the Upanishads. No other books. No other books. No other books means literally no other books. Other books can stimulate, but it cannot give this right drishti. That right drishti comes only and only from the Upanishads. So, Jnanam refers to this so-called, initially it comes in the form of conceptual knowledge, and then later this conceptual knowledge matures into experiential knowledge. That is Vijnana. Jnana and Vijnana Sahita. Yad Gyatva Mokshase Ashubhat. Krishna says, any person who attains to this knowledge, he will be freed from everything that is Ashubha. Ashubha means everything that is evil. Shankaracharya makes a beautiful comment here. You know what is the biggest evil here? Not biggest evil, the only evil. In this language, Shankaracharya says, what is the evil here? Bondage is the evil. This bondage, this worldly bondage is the evil. You shall become freed from this evil of worldly bondage when you have the right knowledge about the Supreme Reality. So beautiful. So what are we going to talk about in the next few weeks? We are going to talk about, actually speaking, Khandana Bhava Bandhana. That is the only theme of the Vedanta. Now you can just look into the life of Sri Ramakrishna. You may look upon Sri Ramakrishna in any way you want. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't make any difference to it. Essential thing is Bhava Bandha Mukti. That is essential, and which happens only through the knowledge of the Supreme Reality, and which cannot come unless we have Vairagya. These are the basic parts. So we shall see in the next few classes this very theme. So here Sri Krishna right in the beginning says that, hey Arjun, I am going to tell you about that Supreme Brahman, the knowledge of which is a supreme secret. And that knowledge which I am going to talk about, it is going to be both the conceptual knowledge as well as the experiential knowledge, attaining which you shall be freed from worldly bondage. So in the next few weeks, we shall try to look into this theme, and we shall see how we can benefit from it. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat.